Hello.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to
The Macaw Podcast Universe.
We are nearing the end. We are seeing the checkered flag of Fast and Furious, the series that has been most requested, and everyone says you gotta cover this, and everyone says it's the best, and that we're gonna just absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are on the 9th entry in this franchise that is easily the weirdest franchise I have ever seen.
Yep.
And it's shocking to me that it exists. And today we're going to talk about the spin-off movie, which is Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw.
And why did we already say why we're here?
Oh, yeah. No, we didn't. Why don't you tell us why we're here?
We're here to prove people wrong when they say sequels are never better than the originals.
Yes. And we've covered movies that have really embodied that.
Yeah.
You know, some of the Marvel movies have been better than the predecessors. Godfather 2. Well, I kind of like
Well, let's
1
just
and
stick
2
to
equal.
this series.
But then we have this series, and this series is, well,
It's a bit of an enigma.
it's an enigma. And we decided, we've had a guest on every other episode, and that was not planned. It just turned out that way, and I think it's been
Really great.
a really fun way to tackle this. And we have a returning guest.
Mm-hmm.
He's going into the Two Timers Club that only a couple people are on.
Isn't it technically his third?
Well, we don't count, we're not,
I know, but
main
technically,
feed too.
Yeah.
But he might be our first 3-timer, actually,
Yeah.
in total.
Yeah.
And that's our friend, Shane O'Hara. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Shane.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
So here we are. We're talking about two large, bald men who don't like each other and talk about their wieners.
Jason Statham is large to you?
I'm sure if I stood next to Jason Statham, he would be large to me.
Hey, Siri. How tall is Jason Statham?
Okay, here we go.
He's only 5'10".
5'10". That's taller than me, and I'm sure he's
By
ripped.
a couple of inches.
So we're talking about this movie. Shane, what is your experience with Fast and Furious? And then dive into your experience with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, okay. So, obviously, watched the first two on DVD when I was younger with the family. Thought the first one was interesting. Loved the second one upon first viewing.
Yeah.
Rewatch. You brought up some good points in your episode. The plasma gun upon rewatch doesn't make any sense, but we'll brush past that.
Yeah.
Tokyo Drift, I can remember watching it in my grandparents' house and really enjoying it, not understanding how it was connected at all to these other two movies.
Yep.
Fourth one, it's a mush of I don't remember and I don't care to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then five. Five is I think it's the linchpin of the series where they kind of jump the shark, but in the best way possible.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And bring this series to the level of what it is, of like it's this bombastic, fun joyride of absurdity that while you could question every detail, it's a good time. It's a good ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 6, 7, and 8 kind of all blend. The only 7 I honestly can't remember, other than I just know that's the last time we see Paul Walker, sadly enough.
Yeah.
And then of course 8 I just know there's ice involved, and then
Yep.
we have
Yeah.
and then we have this movie, and then I won't talk about 9, but and then we have this movie. So in this movie, wowzer! I remember we saw it as a family. My brother graduated college, and it's like, all right, we gotta find an activity to do tonight. Let's go do something. And I was like, oh, let's go get dinner and a movie. And I was like, we always, and it's the O'Hara boys and then my mom, and so we're like we're juggling what movie would entertain us both, right? And
Yeah.
My mom, I wouldn't say she doesn't like action, but she needs more. I couldn't take her, nor could I sit her down to watch Rambo 5.
Yeah.
She'd be on her phone the entire time, and I don't blame her.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I get that. But you bring in The Rock and Jason Statham and the humor and all that, and you got The Rock with his shirt off, and I can convince my mother to go. So So we saw this in theaters, laughed our butts off, and the rest is history until I had to rewatch it for this. Not had to. I wanted to rewatch it.
This is your first rewatch.
This is my first rewatch.
So okay. I gotta just pump the brakes here. So the first time you saw this, you're in theaters. You're caught up in the theater. You're in that You're probably at Tinseltown.
No, we're in another state. It's
okay.
AMC Regal probability.
Even better. So you're at a nice theater. You're just falling victim to the biceps and the testosterone, and then you don't watch the movie at all until, I'm assuming, last night, maybe.
We'll call it this week. It took me whole week to watch it.
Oh no.
Okay.
That's nothing against the movie. It's just how I watch movies now. I can only sit for 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. It's a lot on a school night,
Yeah. Yeah.
So then the second time you watch it, what happens this time?
I love aspects of it, and then I start to get a little bored a little bit part of the way. And then I remember the absurdity of it, and I fall back in love with it, and I just accept it for what it is and was. And I remember the good time I had with my family, and I'm like, why am I trying to tarnish this by picking this movie apart? Like, just it's a ride, baby. Like, just go with it. And I finished it last night, and I gotta say, we could pull it apart. It's very easy to pull apart.
Yes.
Dislike. But at the end of the day, my God, what a fantastic masterpiece.
Oh, Shane. Okay. All right. So that's what we're up against on this episode.
That might be what you're up against on this episode.
Yeah.
Let me go.
Okay, go ahead, Jordan.
We watched this movie in 2 halves, so we broke it up as well.
In the same night, though. We just took a break.
Same night, just because schedule stuff. But so we watched like probably the first hour, and then so we watched like the first act, maybe a little bit into act 2. And when we paused it and had to go do another thing, I was like, I am not hating this movie. It's kind of good. It's fun. I just, at one point I said, this is obviously not written by Chris Morgan. And
turns out it is.
Well, no, it's story by, not screenplay by.
It actually is screenplay on Wikipedia.
I don't get him. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm wrong about that. But
not that I use Wikipedia. I check my sources.
The story is just dumb. But it's funny, and I think
it's funny is a very charitable sentence.
Well, I just think that it was like it's very quippy. In this movie, so far in the first hour that we watched, there was no slowing down. There was no boredom for me. This movie looked the first hour looked so good, and then they just forgot. I think in the second half of the movie on that stuff. So by the end of the movie, I was like, okay, this movie sucks, but I didn't hate it. I kind of liked it. Will I rewatch it? No. But it was a good time.
Okay. And I will be your opposite judge to everything that's been presented.
You'll be the Simon Cowell.
For me, we're getting ready to do this series, and I had only seen Tokyo Drift, as listeners know who've been following along. And so I had all these preconceived notions, but I came around to the fact that, okay, this is going to be one of those things that's happened on this podcast before where I didn't like something, and then I'm going to fall in love with it. That has not happened. I've not fallen in love with this series. For the most part, I would say when I judged this series, I was dead on. So I had kind of gathered from, critics I follow and just people that I enjoy their opinions, I'd kind of gathered that Hobbs and Shaw was one of the bad ones.
Yeah.
So as we're getting closer, I was like, they consider this one of the bad ones? Like, but what about those other 4 movies, you know?
Yeah.
And then I watched it, and I don't know what I'm going to say next week when we cover F9 and we do our final ranking, but I think this is my least favorite
I
by
think that's just
a healthy margin.
I think that's because it's still fresh in your mind and you didn't like it. It's not the worst one. It's absolutely
I think
not.
it might be.
It was not boring. And the other ones that were bad were also boring.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, I would put it under 3, 2, and 1.
Huh?
At the very least, the highest I would put this movie is above 4 and 6. Those being my 2 least favorite.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I think I'd put it lower. I mean, but let me just finish setting the table here. I think that the movie takes everything Fast and Furious, even though I'm not even enjoying the series, and it takes out all the, I guess, quote, good parts of it. And this movie thinks it is so damn clever and so damn funny, and it just pissed me off.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
About it though? So when we watched 8, very obvious The Rock and Vin had no scenes together. Like the story was written so that they couldn't be together.
Yeah.
So then The Rock and Jason Statham the whole time are like hating each other, but it's a bromance thing.
Yeah.
And I said while watching 8, I was like, you know what? I want to see a Hobbs and Shaw movie. And and obviously I know that there is one, but it's like, I think I'm excited for that movie because I just want to see them have their old married couple banter the whole time. It got too much. It definitely did in this movie, but I think part of why I enjoyed it is because that's exactly what I wanted. And pretty immediately when the movie started, I thought, why is this a Fast and Furious movie? I mean, it's a rhetorical question, but it should have just been an action sci-fi movie with no affiliation.
Yeah, go ahead, Shane.
So going on Jordan's point there, like imagine riding the wave of these movies coming out. And you see 6, you see 7, you have The Rock, you have the Vin Diesel, they're fighting in real life and clearly that's not working out. And then you see 8 and you have all this like, oh yeah, a Hobbs and Shaw movie would be great. And then it's just, this movie is just fan service. It's not a great movie.
Yeah.
It's what we wanted at the time. And then when you go back and watch it, it's like, all right, some of the jokes are funny, so like, but after 8 just like jabs in a row, you're like, all right, like they spent a lot of time on this. They like, I get what Mike is saying, but it's also it's complete fan service. I appreciated it in the moment, and that's why I didn't want to, like, I hate it. I watched this every day this week because I had to turn it off after like 45 minutes, and then I would rewind it 15 minutes.
My gosh.
See, this is the thing I keep running into.
This movie was way too long.
Everybody says, like, I love this series. And then I ask them why, and they say, like, you just have to turn off your brain. Or I had to watch it over the course of a week. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's crazy. But so the last thing I'll say on setting my table here is I always try really hard, no matter what my expectation of a movie is, to go into it fresh. I mean, if I already like a movie, I'm not going to try to, like, I want to figure out why it sucks. I want to keep liking it. But if I don't like something, I'm going to try and find it. And that's what I always strive to do on this podcast, because we don't want to just be a bad movie podcast. But I think this series has beaten me down. And for the first time, our roles reversed, because any loyal listener will know that Jordan has many...
I'm pretty unfair. I can be pretty unfair.
I wouldn't say you're unfair, but sometimes...
Too critical.
No, that's why we're here.
Okay.
I wouldn't put that on
fine.
you. People love that about you, Jordan. But I would just say that...
myself.
I would just say that sometimes... you'll say, I already bowed out of the movie. Or like, this series is bad and I can't...
Some would say unfair.
Yeah, okay, fine. and then I'm like, but we got to give this next movie a try, you know? And I think when I press play on this, I will admit to the audience, I think right when the Universal logo hit, I was like, I can't do these movies anymore.
Yeah.
I can't do these movies anymore. And then when was what it was, it just continually was like riding your bike downhill without the brakes on. And I'm like, can someone just crash into me?
Are you excited to know that you have potentially 3 more movies to get through?
No. That's one reason why I haven't been wanting to cover this series for so long, is because they keep making movies.
Yeah.
I was
I
reading
don't want
something
that.
recently, being today, that recent, and they said the thing I looked up on Wikipedia, I checked my sources, and it was saying, and I could be wrong, but it was saying Fast 10 is a 2-parter.
It is. I can confirm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I think too, part of where I'm coming from with it is I think I needed a movie like this that was cheesy and bad. Our cat died recently that I've had since I was 11.
Yeah,
So
we've been having a rough week.
Yeah, so I think like, because prior to that happening, we were like, we need to watch a good movie. We like put off watching the next Fast and Furious movie because we needed a good movie.
Yeah,
we did watch one. We watched Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah,
which was good. But then all the stuff with the cat happened, and I think it's just like, I think I did need a movie where I had to turn my brain off, and maybe that's why part of why it worked for me.
Well, and I'll admit that the Steven Spielberg masterpiece West Side Story just went onto streaming, and on the same day it went onto streaming, and I'd have a chance to rewatch that movie, I was like, I have to watch Hobbs and Shaw when I could be watching West Side Story right now. And I was also kind of mad at the movie for that, which is not the movie's fault. Mm-hmm. But I was a little mad that I was not watching some great singing and dancing.
Don't worry, we'll make up for that tonight.
Okay. But let's talk about let's go back into the movie here. Now, Shane, I realized something. You were so recently on our podcast. You were on John Wick Chapter 3 at the beginning of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
At the beginning of this year, you were on that episode, and this movie is related to John Wick, so it's only appropriate that you chose to cover this movie because John Wick 1 is directed by Chad Stahelski, but it's also uncredited, directed by David Leitch, who is the director of this movie. So it's kind of cool that you chose this movie to cover. You got a John Wick through line.
I did that on purpose.
Did you really?
No, not even slightly.
You really convinced me there. So speaking of David Leitch, he co-directs the movie I just said, John Wick. Just the first one, so not the second or third.
He doesn't produce on the other ones?
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And then he makes Atomic Blonde, a movie I've not seen.
To which last night you said, I will not watch.
Yeah, I said I don't want to watch it. Because he also made Deadpool 2, which is a movie that I also don't like. Mm-hmm. And then he makes Hobbs and Shaw, which is a movie I don't like. So I'm like, I think I like...
Can save yourself some time.
The magic of John Wick, I think, is Chad for me.
Okay.
I think I'm in love with David Leitch.
But he is coming out with Bullet Train this year, and that movie's going to be fun, I think.
Wait, the trailer just dropped.
The teaser?
I haven't because I'm hoping it plays on the Batman this weekend.
Oh, it will.
And I want to see it on the big screen as the first time.
Chad Stahelski, who's in Matrix?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember.
Okay, so the screenplay of this movie is by Mr. Fast and Furious himself, Chris Morgan.
Yeah, but he had a lot of help. It was felt different.
Yeah, he gets a story credit, and then he also gets a screenplay credit. But along with the screenplay, we have Drew Pearce, who co-wrote Iron Man 3 and co-wrote Mission Impossible 5.
Okay.
Both great movies.
Yeah.
The cinematography is by Jonathan Sala, who we just talked about because he did John Wick.
Okay.
And the music is by Tyler Bates, who did the Guardians movies. So we've talked about him before. I have so little notes. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
That's great. I love it.
Hey. The movie comes out August 2nd, 2019. A $200 million budget. It makes $173 million in the U.S., so didn't do too great in the U.S. But worldwide, it makes $760 million. But there's some more info I have on the money that this movie made, because Johnson and Statham. So this is not like 100%, but Deadline sometimes checks people, like sees how much money a movie made. So this is guesstimation, but it's fairly
Educated
accurate.
guesses.
Educated guesses. So they say Johnson and Statham get a huge part of the change here. Johnson alone can command as much as $20 million up front, which is part of the movie's $200, and around 25% of cash break-even monies that are included in total participations of $30 million. All in global revenues across home entertainment and TV were just over $500 million. Subtract $454 million for global costs, including $140 million for P&A. I don't know what that is. And Hobbs and Shaw walks away with a net profit of $84 million.
What? So it's like those actors get paid so much money that it actually doesn't make sense to maybe make a movie.
Well, so they're probably eating up somewhere between $30 to $40 million, just the two guys.
That's so much money.
Yeah. Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, am I wrong in at the end of the movie? They're both like executive producers or producers, so they're like it very much feels like they, from the other movies, they just were like, we should like someone presented the idea and they're like, yeah, we're gonna fund this. Let's just go do this. Like this will make money. It's a very much it seems like an easy cash grab for the two of them plus all of the other players that are in the movie.
Yeah. But then I don't know what this breakdown is, the $454 million global costs, but making $84 million for a movie that, makes $750 million, that's not a good profit. No. I just think, this goes into this conversation that like all movies now have these huge budgets. We just talked about it on Patreon with Speed, how the first Speed has $30 million budget. The second Speed has 120 or something, or 110. And it's like, when you start going to those lengths, you have to make so much money to make a profit. So like, if a Marvel movie were to bomb, they would probably get so scared about everything they're about to release. Yeah. Whereas if they wanted to, these franchises could be like, hey, let's get a lower budget. Let's make a $40 million movie, But the theaters are event only now. Anyway, that's a whole different conversation. Yeah, but
that's wild.
There were talks about getting Shane Black to direct this movie at one point.
Okay.
Which would have been a better movie. Glad he didn't do it, though. And then Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson filmed Jungle Cruise before this movie came out.
Whoa. Well, Jungle
before
Cruise,
they filmed this.
I feel like I've been seeing trailers for that movie for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Jungle Cruise came out last summer.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Didn't it come out in the last couple of years? And this movie came out 3 years ago?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that's interesting. And then finally, there's a bunch of random updates on if there will be a sequel or not to this movie, Hobbs and Shaw 2.
There shouldn't be.
But as of November...
Whoa.
As of November, The Rock says that he has an original idea that is the antithesis of FF movies.
Whatever. Okay.
So they are going to make a second movie at some point.
I cannot wait to know what the antithesis of these movies could be.
Well, and either one of the producers or one of the writers of the next movie, I can't remember which, was like, this movie's really ambitious. So
gotta see it to believe it.
Yep.
At this point.
And those are my notes on Hobbs and Shaw. Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw.
Okay. This movie has Vanessa Kirby, who plays Hobbs' sister. She is also in The Crown, Pieces of a Woman, The World to Come, Mr. Jones, and Julie. And then...
And Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yes.
Most notably.
Yes, sorry. Aiza...
She's the White Widow. I see Shane's confusion.
Yeah, that's a movie I watched 3 times consecutively in a row in one day, and I don't remember who she is in that movie, and that's really disappointing.
it was funny. So she kisses Tom Cruise in that movie, and the way that she did it was exactly in the same way that she kissed The Rock, and it was just these are the only two movies I've seen her in, and it just was very like, is that how she kisses everybody in a movie?
Yeah, because she goes for like a quick.
She goes so fast.
Yeah, she goes fast.
Like it's like the moment is passing.
Yeah, which is kind of great. You don't see that all the time in movies.
Okay.
I think here's the thing. I think she's very good in this movie.
Oh, I think she's great.
I think she's easily the best performance.
Yeah.
By a mile.
Yeah.
I can't really think of a number two. Go ahead.
Wow. Kevin Hart.
Oh, actually, yeah. Kevin Hart was number two.
Ryan Reynolds.
We're going to get there, Shane. We're going to get there.
Okay, so.
But pump the brakes, man.
Eiza Gonzalez. She is also in Baby Driver, I Care a Lot, Godzilla vs. Kong, Love Spreads. And then Cliff.
Love Spreads. Yeah, that is a bad title.
What's funny is when I wrote it down, I was like just writing down movies, and as I'm saying it out loud, don't like that title. Cliff Curtis, who plays The Rock's brother, he is in Risen, Sunshine, Training Day, Doctor Sleep, and a million other things.
And Bringing Out the Dead.
That's what that movie's called.
Yeah.
Bringing Out the Dead. And then have we covered Ryan Reynolds? Because I didn't take notes on him, but I feel like we have not.
I don't think we have to really give notes on Ryan Reynolds.
I mean, Deadpool.
What's the movie, like romantic comedy?
Definitely Maybe.
Yeah, I think
that's
the one.
The big one for him.
Thanks, Shane.
You're welcome.
And then, Kevin...
I'm Just Not That Into You. Is that a movie he was in?
I don't know if he was in that movie. But
No.
That's one of those movies where there's like a million people in that movie.
Okay. That's not what I'm thinking of.
And I don't think we've never covered Kevin Hart either. And I didn't write anything down for him, but I mean...
Well, he shows up as Kevin Hart basically in this movie, so we don't have to go over his acting.
The Proposal. That's the other huge Ryan Reynolds movie.
Yeah.
Also, let's not forget Red Notice that came out
gosh.
recently.
What about Free Guy?
Free Guy. That one too.
Yep, Free Guy. That came out. People saw it apparently. Did you see Free Guy?
Yeah, I did. In theaters.
Was it good?
It's on par with this movie. Where
Okay, I will continue to skip it.
I remember when Deadpool...
It's a fun time if you don't think too much about it.
Got
Perfect. I'm going to rewatch West Side Story that day. Again.
Taika Waititi's in it, so...
Well, okay, that is pretty tempting.
Yeah, now I'm getting you.
You're evening out the scores a little bit here. He's reeling me in.
Yep.
Oh, is that everybody?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Of note.
Okay.
Oh, we've covered Idris Elba.
We have covered Idris Elba.
In?
One of the Thor movies.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to have an interesting conversation about him in a little bit.
I don't think there's much to say.
No, not in regards to this movie. I
also think career-wise, I don't think there's much to say.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay, maybe we're not going to have that discussion
No, we
later.
can have any discussion you want.
Well, the discussion I want to start out with is it looks way better. At the beginning, like you said, and it just starts.
It just starts. I especially love the side-by-side of The Rock's day and Jason's day, and the colors looked so good, and it was funny, and I just thought, here we go. Take me away.
I completely agree. I completely agree, and to go back to what you said a little earlier, I think about halfway through, it kind of mishmashes with the colors and the CGI, and we'll get to it, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, so the beginning shows Vanessa Kirby. I never caught her character's name, which is my bad, but I just never caught it.
Hattie? Hattie? I think it's Hattie.
Hattie.
Oh, wow. I never got it either then.
So Hattie comes in and she gets this virus. And then when she does that, the action's already better. I'm getting like very strong. This looks and is shot like John Wick.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this movie. And then Idris Elba comes in and his eyes change and he's computing and stuff. And he is literally a super soldier.
He is a super soldier.
And you get the Darth Vader, the gunshot where he puts his hand up and blocks it. And it's her shooting at him and he's just like...
Oh, yeah, you're right.
This right away. I know that Fast and Furious, the franchise, is known for doing insane things that defy physics and all that stuff. Superpowers, though, to me, is too far in a series where there seem to be no limits. It's just like immediately, this shouldn't be a Fast and Furious movie. Just make a different movie.
Yeah, I kind of am not going to get mad at Fast and Furious for being gonzo because I've been ringing the bell that they need to be gonzo-ier the further we get along. But this was like, okay. And I think because Vin Diesel's not in this at all, it's just kind of like, this isn't a Fast and Furious movie.
No, it wasn't.
And there's not that much car stuff going on.
No, there's not.
It's like, yeah, this is just a
buddy movie.
Straight to Netflix Red Notice movie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's more superhero than like the other Fast and the Furious movies. You're like, oh, they break the laws of physics and they do this and they do that. But you go like, yeah, but I can believe that a little more than what we'll get into later in this movie, where it starts off with just like, no, I can block bullets with my hand because I'm something, you know, and then they explain it later, and you're like, I still don't. It's not in that realm of like just jumping off a train onto a car that's going, you know, off the side of a mountain or something.
Yes.
It's a little more than that. It's a little too much more than that.
Yes.
Yeah. And what I posit to the class here is that, okay, we have this John Wick thing, then we have the super soldier thing, and what I thought immediately after that is, okay, this is literally David Leitch is taking his John Wick influence and his Deadpool influence, and he is making a movie.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Down to the fact that Ryan Reynolds is in this movie playing Deadpool because he doesn't play other characters anymore.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Micah's mad at Ryan.
We're going to get to that.
I am disappointed in Micah right now.
And okay, so here's another. Should we get more plot, or should I do another soapbox here? I don't want to just be running this totally.
Go for it, and then we'll shoot you down.
Okay. Shane's got his guns loaded.
He's gonna shoot him down.
I just think you made the point where you said this movie should have just not been a Fast and Furious movie. And what I say to that is I think the only reason this movie is successful financially is because it's a Fast and Furious movie.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because this is that kind of thing that sometimes Marvel gets away with. I look to Black Widow as an example. A movie that the further I get away from it, the more I'm like, it's not really that good. Where it's like, hey, this is this spy movie. But they don't like fully commit to that. So it's just kind of like a B Marvel and like a C spy movie. Like it's not really good at doing that pastiche that it's trying to accomplish. And this is that same thing where it's like, it's only the brand that this movie made money.
Yeah.
I know Dwayne The Rock and Statham, yes, they're bringing in a lot of money, but I don't think that this movie does financially well without the Fast and Furious banner.
Almost like they wanted to make an action movie together, but it's like, well, we can't make an action movie together without being our characters.
Yeah.
That people already know us for. That would be so stupid not to.
Absolutely. And I also wrote down, and I thought, until I knew who wrote the movie, being Chris Morgan, I thought potentially they had found a script that they liked and they just rewrote some stuff to make it Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Because that's how it read to me.
Yeah.
Like, it just didn't feel like fast at all.
Mm-hmm. Did it feel furious?
It did. Well, I was furious, so yeah. Yeah.
Just not fast.
But yeah, should we continue? Any more points on that?
What is your issue with not issue, but so Idris Elba in this movie?
Yeah.
The reason why I don't think there's much to talk about, one, the character, he's bad guy. He bad guy.
He
He's
even says that.
He's Black Superman.
He is Black Superman.
He is Black Superman.
He does say, I'm the bad guy. And I think that's really all we need from him. And then also, career-wise, I think...
Okay, so we are doing that. Okay.
Well, I just think, he is such an incredible actor. Mike and I just started The Wire with our friends, and I can't wait to see more from him.
Yep.
And I've seen him in Luther is so good. He is such a good actor. But I'm curious if maybe like, you know, he's middle aged now, and it's like, how come he's not being the star in things like this now? So he has to be these kinds of characters, and it's like he's a very forgettable character. But I'm curious, like, what the next couple of years hold for him. To me, because even in Marvel movies, he's in a Marvel movie that's awesome. He gets killed. He's like barely a side character.
Right. Well, see, so this is what I want to ask you to, and I want your genuine opinion. You don't have to agree with me. Does Idris Elba perhaps need to fire his agent? That's the question.
I would potentially say yes so far.
Because I'm just going to go to 2017. And of course, I'm just going to hit the notable things. He's in The Dark Tower.
Bad.
Terrible movie, box office flop. Couldn't be worse. He's in The Mountain Between Us, which is a drama I didn't see, can't speak to that. Thor Ragnarok as a side character. 2018, he's in Avengers Infinity War. 2019, he continues to be in Luther, which is a good show, which you showed me, Shane. And he should just keep doing Luther whenever he wants, because that's a good thing for him. Then there's a couple other things. Then there's Hobbs and Shaw, a movie called Cats. Let's not forget that he's in the movie Cats.
Oh, that's right. He is.
And then in 2020, he's in a show, and then he's in a movie called Concrete Cowboy. Never heard of it.
I think that was a Netflix. It looked interesting from the trailer. It looked odd but interesting, kind of a movie. But it was like I think it was a Netflix movie. I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, it was. You're right. This actually looked like it could potentially be good.
Yeah, it's like modern day, but they have like horses in like Chicago or something. I'm grasping at straws. No hay intended. But
that movie actually looks good. I would.
Okay, and then he's got The Suicide Squad, which was kind of a box office flop, but a critical darling, and I think that was a good choice.
Yeah,
for him to be in. I mean,
I did forget about that. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, good movie, good role. He's good in that.
Yeah.
Then The Harder They Fall, and then he's gonna be in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. That's his next big one.
Is he Knuckles?
He's Knuckles, and I think he needs a new agent. That's what I think. What do you guys think?
I would like him to make an Oscar move, be in something really Oscar worthy.
Yeah,
I've not seen Concrete Cowboy, so I don't know if that would fall under that, but
I think too low budget.
Because I think he's got it in him.
I mean, I really love Idris Elba. That's what I'm coming up against. Is it's like the same way I felt when we were watching Fate of the Furious and Charlize comes on the screen, because I'm like, I love this actor, but like why are you in this movie? This is a bad role for you.
This made me I'm mad at her.
Perhaps furious.
Definitely furious.
What do you think, though, Shane? Idris?
Yeah, he's been in better stuff, and if he's just trying to maintain, like, he's certainly doing a good job. It's like the Sonic movies are now a huge hit. Yeah. At least, so like, oh yeah, now he's in the second one. He's gonna probably make a good chunk of change off that. He's staying relevant. He's kind of keeping the status quo, but like, he was fantastic. He's phenomenal in Luther. I haven't seen The Wire personally, but I've only heard great things. So, you know, these side characters are great or whatever, but then you see this movie and you're like, you could replace him with anyone.
Yeah.
You could replace him with a blank slate. I don't mean to be that rude, but he's just not that. By the end of the movie, and because of partially, I think, because of the plot of the movie and how they end it, it's like he's just he is a replaceable character. Part of it's him, but also part of it's not. It's just how the character is written.
I think anyone who would play that role, we'd be saying the same thing.
I mean, it is a thankless role.
Yeah.
Because we've seen this exact role, these exact motivations about 4,000 times
and I think
by now.
That's part of what's disappointing about it, because it's like, dude, you've done better. You'll do better. I did forget about Suicide Squad, so that is
Yeah,
good.
that's a good feather in his cap. Even though the movie financially didn't do awesome, I think legacy-wise, that movie will, especially with the success of Peacemaker and stuff, I think people will forget that it didn't do good at the theaters within like a year.
And change the motivation a little bit. Like, less about him being killed by Jason Statham, that whole crux. Make it a little more personal. Like, make it Jason Statham killed his daughter or something. Something where you're like, oh, I can emotionally feel for this. This evil character. Like, yeah, he's doing bad things, but and it started off from a wrong presence, but it's not completely unjustified. In this, it's kind of like he's just off on his own world, kind of doing his own thing. You're like, this is after a while, you go, this is boring. Like, I don't care.
Oh gosh,
right.
I did not understand his those kinds of things. He kept saying things like, "You killed your brother. You killed me." At one point, he said, "You killed your brother," and Mike and I thought, Luke Evans, is he dead? What? And then he said something about Hattie, his sister, something about her, and Mike and I were like, what is he talking about?
Yeah.
I think they were just saying things that happened off screen in the past, and it was confusing.
He definitely was, and you'll watch 9, and this movie still won't make sense, and I won't like 9 doesn't allude to this. This is like set in I wouldn't say an alternate timeline, but at least either in the future, like it's farther in the future. I don't know how far. It's a very odd presence, and what you're saying, him going like, oh, you did this, you did that. It's like, it still doesn't make me fear you or like understand your character's wants and desires. It's just, you're by 2026 we gotta the world will kill itself unless we help it. Like, that's a kind of lame. I don't know. I think you can write. There's better writing out there.
I'm definitely tired of we need to evolve. We're just forcing the next stage of evolution premise. It's been done so much. It's boring.
Well, particularly when it's not done in an interesting way. When that's just because I think of X-Men, and the movies have varying degree of quality, but that idea of like people being scared of X-Men because they are a superior being and the next step in evolution, that's so interesting. And that's all, if it's written well, that's crazy interesting. Like kind of a war between mutants and humans and stuff. But something like this where it's like, I don't know, he just needs a stupid motivation.
Yeah.
Evolution.
Yeah.
It just feels like and it was the same motivation that
Charlize had.
Yeah, in the previous movie. So it's kind of like, okay. Okay, let's do something else.
Yeah.
But so let's see, where are we at?
Well, she takes the virus and she gets away, and then we go to The Rock and Jason.
Well, we go to The Rock and his daughter at the restaurant.
Yeah.
And
after a cool intro sequence of their characters.
Yes, I admit. But this
that
is
might have been after. Was it after?
It was after.
Oh, okay, sorry.
There is this very funny, and it's just a writing thing for action movies. Like, I get it. I'm not going to fault the movie for it, but it's just funny because his daughter's basically like, hey, Dad, what are the themes and the story of this movie going to be so that they can have payoffs later in the movie? For example, who's this guy in this photo? And you're like, oh, that's his brother. He's going to have to talk to him later in the movie, and he's going to have to go home to Samoa.
Or she's like, this is our family tree. I don't have any leaves.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, that's the plot. And he has cheat day because they hand him like 20 pancakes.
Yeah.
And
he crushes it.
That's not when Ryan comes in quite yet. Then we see Helen Mirren, and she basically says,
oh, okay.
She basically says like, hey, what are the themes and story of this movie gonna be for you, Jason Statham?
Yeah, okay.
She's like, where's your sister at? I wish you guys would do fun grifts again. You're like, okay, so all of that is going to happen.
I think it's fun that she's in prison.
Yeah. And that's, you kind of have to do that for a movie that's not like a very serious movie. I get it.
But are you two catching on? What's the theme of the Fast and the Furious movies that starts with an F?
Family.
Corona or family. No Coronas in
Family.
this movie.
Well, Vin's not in it.
That's true.
That's his drink of choice.
And then this is when so so Fate of the Furious was doing this. This movie really runs with it. And I actually went to like the fandom page and read about Deckard Shaw.
Oh gosh,
Because-
you did. You've done too much for this series.
Please sign up for our Patreon, folks. Patreon.com/Micah McCaw. Link in the notes. So when we are introduced to Deckard Shaw, he kills Han at the post-credit scene of 6. Then in 7, he murders like a bunch of doctors.
Post-credit scene of 6? Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because it ties back to 3. It's
Yeah.
It's a mess.
I'm getting caught up on the details, and I should just sit back and relax and enjoy the ride.
And so then in 7, the movie opens with him having murdered like 30 people. And it's so many people that he's murdered, and there's definitely innocence there. And then he leaves, and then we'll just call it episode 8. The Chris Morgan's like, crap, Jason Statham is so dang charming. Why did we write him as a bad guy? And they kind of try to undo it and make him fun and charming.
Yeah.
And it, for the most part, works.
Yeah.
But this movie's like, they go on this whole rabbit hole thing that I kind of missed. So that's why I was reading the fandom where they're like, no, he was in MI5 and they framed him for all of this stuff. And he was a mercenary for a little bit, but he's, his sister.
They are trying to say stuff? I missed it.
Because his sister, the whole movie's like, I should have just trusted that you were still a good guy, basically, is what she's saying.
Oh.
So this movie, half of the battle of this movie is they're like, yeah.
Retconning.
No. He's always been a good guy. I'm like, okay. And it's trying to establish like, no. The worst he does is like rob. He's like a fun robber. That's what he does. He's not a terrorist, even though when we first meet him, he is an established terrorist.
Yeah. That goes under the category of turn off your brain.
Well, and in a way, I'm kind of glad because I want Statham in these movies. I think he brings a lot to them.
Yeah.
And it would kind of stink if he was only the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it does make me think like, oh, maybe in the next movie, they're going to take Charlize's character and be like, oh, actually, she was doing all that because she was actually trying to build Earth 2.
Don't even. No, you got to stop talking about her because it does make me mad.
So, now we cut to
family.
The moment in the movie. This is where I officially was out.
Right when Ryan Reynolds walked in?
When Ryan Reynolds walked in, I was
Gosh.
like, no, please no. And he
I
explains...
was kind of happy to see him.
Sure. He explains the plot of the movie to Dwayne at a restaurant to his daughter. That stuff's kind of funny. You can't think about it. And I don't want to get cinema sins, although this movie like puts a gun to your head and it's like, come on, just try. You want to cinema sins this movie. And I'm like, no, I'm better than that. I'm not going to do it. Oh, you're tempting me at every scene though. So he comes in and I'm just assuming... Yeah, I am so running this. I actually feel kind of bad. Please let me not talk.
I think Ryan Reynolds is a fun, tiny little cherry on top. Micah, as you know, I'm a little tired of the dude too. You said while we're watching the movie, I cannot wait for him to go on a 5-year hiatus, and I agree. I just want him to work on his soccer team.
You're welcome on the podcast
And-
anytime, Ryan.
Just focus on the soccer team.
You're not
But
excited for the Adam Project coming to Netflix sometime this year? That looks great.
He's got mouths to feed. He's got children.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean,
No, Jordan, I completely agree
Yeah.
with you. He is a cherry, just like Kevin
Yeah.
Hart. We need there's too much macho
Yeah.
bald-headed guys running around that we need something to
Fair.
break it up. And
that is a very fair
Yes.
point.
there is a point in this movie where they are going back and forth, Statham and The Rock, that is, and they're just jabbing at each other, and you're like, all right, it was funny for about 15 minutes,
Yes.
but we're 25 minutes into it, and I'm quite done with this. And then that's when Kevin Hart shows up, and he like,
Yes.
and you're like, oh, great, he's breaking the tension a little bit. Not that there wasn't
Yeah.
any, but and he's adding his own humor to it. Like, oh, we need you need a third guy. I'm your third guy, kind of, you know.
Yeah. It was great.
Yeah, that's what I loved about it. We're having this adorable moment with his daughter, and you're like, oh, come on, like, The Rock and his daughter, and then we get Locke, which I'm hoping for Fast and the Furious presents Lock and Loaded at some point.
Okay,
And I hope it's him and Kevin
good.
Hart in a movie together.
I would love that. I would love that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would watch. I would have to watch it.
Yeah, I'd be required to watch it, and I would think I would enjoy it, and then halfway through, I know I wouldn't.
I think something that I would suggest that you try, Micah, that whenever you see Ryan Reynolds in something now that's new, because he is not going away, stop thinking about how annoying he is to you.
I know.
Because and stop thinking about how he is the same person and everything, because he is. And he's not changing, because that's why he gets hired.
Well, okay. We're kind of not going over the plot of this movie,
We're
and
just
that's okay.
fighting about people.
That's okay. But I had to defend myself a little bit here. I was a Ryan Reynolds fan, and it's only recently that I've turned. And I imagine
since Deadpool 2?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. But I would imagine that there will be a point in my life where I am a fan again. Okay? So I have nothing against the guy personally.
And you've not seen The Proposal?
I have seen The Proposal. He's very good in that movie. That's a fun movie. I like that movie. Here's what I rub against. Oh my gosh, cut that. Here's what I don't enjoy. And this movie has this problem in two areas, I believe, and I think it's actually after processing, my biggest problems with the movie. Ryan Reynolds, his persona, he's like this guy who wishes he was a comedian, is the impression I get. And it's like he's improvising, he's doing the Ryan Reynolds thing, and it's like, but you're not quite a comedian. You're close. Yeah. But you're a handsome man who is an actor that's funny. You're not a comedian. Okay. I think. I may be wrong, and I know that he's in comedies. I understand that. Yeah. But it's like he's trying so hard to be like, I could blow down Madison Square Gardens at a blowdown. A blowdown.
Let Shane talk. He's trying to talk.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna say 2 cents. 2 cents. We're an hour into this podcast, and you are ranting on Ryan Reynolds. He's in this movie for.
I know.
If you watch the end credits,
I know. He's in it for 5 minutes, maybe.
Not even 5, 3 to 4 at most, and we're.
I'm starting to feel bad.
Face. You're red in the face.
I'm starting to feel bad.
I just think that the series, as you said, have finally broken you down, and you're taking it out on poor Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ryan.
We can't get past the pancakes. I mean, we're right there.
I'm sorry.
At the beginning, we haven't even talked about the craziness of this movie.
I'll save my rock rant then, because the rock rant is coming, but I'm going to save it.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's one thing I've also learned about us as a married couple watching this series is that we are not in agreement on The Rock. Yeah. Which is shocking to me, because I feel like I'm usually the one, as previously...
I said we were going to do the rant later.
as previously stated, I'm usually the one that's like, I am done with a person or with a movie or with a thing like so fast, and you're usually like, you give grace. I have a hard time giving grace. Yeah. And for some reason, it's like, The Rock's fine. I mean, he's kind of annoying in some parts, sure, but I like him. Dare I say, I kind of like him.
Okay, then I have to do it now. And then I think I can just turn off my mic and just leave. And people can disagree with me, and that's okay. I think The Rock has an identity crisis.
No, this is what I think. This is what you're going to say. He really wants to be a comedian, but he's not.
That's not what I'm going to say. So the obvious analog in movie history is Arnold. Hey. The obvious analog is Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
Sure.
Two huge men who are like, I am determined to work so hard that everyone knows who I am, and I am the absolute top of my game. Okay. Now, obviously, we can pick apart different parts of Arnold's career that kind of break this theory down. But Arnold would work with directors who allowed he allowed them to do things that made the material work for him and play off of him. And I think that the subtle difference for me with The Rock is The Rock comes into projects now and he forces the material to be like him, and he doesn't let the director or the writer play on who he is.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And that's what I think the difference is between those guys, and that's why Schwarzenegger I really love.
Yeah.
And Dwayne, because I know he has it in, because the movie where he let it happen is Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he was fantastic in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's always him. This is how it feels, where it's like in this movie, he has to be, working out a specific amount of times. This is how it feels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like
yeah.
talking about cheat day.
Yeah.
It's like his Instagram, they're adapting his Instagram profile.
I mean, I think
for this movie.
I think Schwarzenegger's the same way, but the Rock is worse, where you go to a movie that the Rock is in, and he does not disappear into the character. You're watching the Rock.
And same with Arnold. Yes, you are.
Arnold is the same way, but I do agree with you that it's like in an Arnold movie, like you're not like watching him work out 5 different times. He's just big. We don't need to see how he does it. When I do think in the like with The Rock, sometimes it is like we have to just address that he is a big person.
Yeah.
And he works hard to be that person.
Well, and like I don't think you're gonna see, like Dave Bautista is kind in a similar vein. He's this big guy and he's a wrestler and all that jazz. But he's the kind of guy that now he's working with one of the best living directors, Denis Villeneuve. He's in Dune, he's in Blade Runner, and he allows Denis to make him do whatever he needs him to do. And you're not going to see The Rock get signed on to a prestige director's movie. At least not in this phase in his career. He's unwilling to do it. He needs to be the guy that's behind the director being like, actually, you can't film me from that angle. Yeah. Because I don't look as good.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't like this movie. And my rants are over.
Okay.
All right. Well, can we jump a little bit? Let's jump around,
Sure, let's do it.
I'm trying to ease the tension a little bit because Mike is he's bringing the hot and heavy real quick.
Yes.
I am.
It's all good.
I feel bad now. I feel bad.
No, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. That's just how you feel. How you feel, and how you feel is wrong. But it's no, I kid. No, you've got some solid points. You just like. What it comes back to is you have to this movie is not great. It's not good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
You have to dumb yourself down like a little bit. They made the timing of everything that like led to this movie. They hit a vein and they made some money off of it. Good for them. But it's also like just fun dumb. Like, let's talk about Idris Elba's motorcycle that just like drives up
like
to him.
Like a dog.
That's dumb. I mean,
it's kind of cool.
It's kind of cool until you see it in action. You're like, and then he's called. I don't know. That's where I had problems with the movie. But then, when you have the scene where I think Hattie, I think it's Hattie.
Yeah.
She gets taken by the guys at the Rock and Statham meet for the first time. Oh hell no, I ain't working with this guy. Oh hell no, I ain't working with this guy. And then she gets taken, and then. The guys that take her, cascade down the windows, and then we see that the Rock becomes metahuman, and he just jumps out the window. 40 stories.
I at that part, I literally was like laughing, and I was like, "This is so dumb. I love it." I think I actually said those words.
You did say that.
Yeah, and then you get the scene of him falling. He hits the guy, and then he looks over, and Statham's in the elevator, and he like hits the brakes, and is like, "Oh, I'm Mr. Smarty Pants, and I'm Mr. Muscle Brain," and you just kind of get that love relationship, and it's a dumb movie. Don't get me wrong, Micah. I'm not trying to prove you wrong. I'm just trying to say it's a fun dumb movie.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Well, and I do wonder if there was a world where I didn't have to analyze all 8 other movies before this in this series, like if I had just happened to go to the theaters in August of 2019 and saw this movie, I think I would potentially have a lot of different things to say. Potentially.
No, you wouldn't. I can tell you now, you wouldn't. I was there at that time. I really enjoyed this movie, and I've rewatched it.
Oh no!
You wouldn't have anything else to say because we haven't
I thought you were citing another movie. I thought you were about to say I was there at the time when, and you were gonna say no. Okay.
No. Rewatching this movie, it hits the middle portion with the nuclear silos, and that whole scene is ridiculous. Let's get into this.
Can I just say one more thing too?
Yes.
I think why this movie worked for me, it is bad, it is dumb, and I think why it worked for me more than the other really bad movies in this series is it doesn't take itself as seriously as those other ones.
Yeah.
So I think why those other like 4 and 6 in particular are especially bad is because they're trying so hard to make it mean something.
Well, and 4 is dealing with amnesia, which is just like inherently stupid.
Yeah, and 8 is dealing with a surprise baby. That is just one of the dumbest things.
Yeah.
After watching this movie, let's have that baby in the next Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh my God, yes.
Hobbs and Shaw and Toretto Jr. But yeah, so they attacked that silo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're skipping a bunch, but I mean, folks, I think we're giving you your free money's worth.
Geez, the silo part, man, this is something I also said while watching the movie. They're skydiving down, and we see the silos, and I said, "Oh, I want them to go into one of those pots." And then they went into one of them, and I genuinely lifted up. I was like, "Yay, they did it!" And Mike, I think you were just probably like stewing over there, and I'm like, "They fell into one of them, yay!"
You know what? This feels like how Evan probably felt on our episode for John Wick Chapter 2.
Yeah,
where I'm just like, I just can't even like understand that you guys enjoyed this.
No, we didn't enjoy it.
No.
The opposite. Like his feeling. Sorry, yeah.
But so they go down there. Is this before or no? They go down the silos.
This is when they get to the scene where you got the Macho Man like, "That's your door. No, that's your door." And then they put up the heat guns and they're like,
yeah.
Actually, this is your door, and you get what's going on right here for the folks at home. I've got a screenshot of them kind of looking at each other before they go behind the doors.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I had a blast with this scene because you get the I think the Rock's side was a little boring, but Jason Statham's showing, like, they go through the hallway and Jason Statham's got to fight like 12 guys. And The Rock's got to fight one guy that is taller than The Rock. And you're like, oh. But it's a one-punch kind of thing where you're like, oh.
Yeah. That part is, yeah. That's fun.
I thought it was a lot of fun. I remember, I think
I had to just set aside that like almost none of the humor works for me in this movie.
Sure.
So if I set that aside, this as a sequence, it's pretty fun.
I think this part. I think part of that.
It was fun. It was fun. That's what I'm hearing from Mike, and I'm just hearing like, yeah, I hated this just as much as I hated the other scenes that showed up to this.
I mean, after these rants, this is definitely my least favorite Fast and Furious.
I guess so,
it definitely is. I would rather rewatch any of the other ones.
That is a wild statement.
Yeah. So, but please,
so Jordan, sorry. What did you think about the hallway scenes? Because clearly someone else didn't like it.
I thought it was fun too, and I liked the. So one thing I liked about 8 was the prison scene where they were fighting everyone.
Yeah,
and they were trying to get after each
sequence.
other.
Yeah.
And that's part of when I was like, I want to see a movie with just them. Thank goodness I get one. And this kind of felt the same way where they're like fighting other people, but they're egging each other on. I think that's fun. I think it's those moments between them, there's more chemistry than when they're talking to each other. Like you said, after like 25 minutes, it's like, yeah, I get it. One of your penises is bigger than the other person.
Right.
Like, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, but remember when they're on the airplane, they're getting on the airplane, and The Rock's name is Mike Ox Small.
Oxball.
And then when they're arresting him, they're like, my cock small, stop that guy, my cock small. Is what they say. That's in the movie.
Yeah, that is.
I'm
and
just
later on,
pointing that out.
he gives Statham a name too that I can't remember what it was.
Hugh Janus. Hugh
Janus, yeah. By the way, well, I'm just ragging, but they're not as good
Bragging about what?
No ragging. I gotta.
Go ahead, Micah. What were you
I gotta
talking
go
about?
watch West Side Story. No, it's just I think Bart Simpson does a better job than the
With banter?
with calling Moe's Tavern and doing the prank calls.
Okay.
There's better prank calls than that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, these
But it's, I mean, comedians, right? The
They do.
Simpsons, and there's no comedians involved with this movie,
There's not.
and that's okay. I loved this movie. It's perfect.
Gosh. So the big thing with the plot is Hattie gets the virus in her, and she has 72 hours to either extract it or she like explodes and it goes everywhere and is going to kill everyone, right?
Yep. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, it gets
I
wild.
was just going to say, from finding that out till the end of the movie, I swear we went through a week and not 72
Yeah.
hours.
Let's
A lot of daytime and nighttime things.
Yes, let's put a pin in that, but we're gonna come back to that in about like less than a minute and a half. I mean, it's
Okay.
it's not. You're not far off. Rewatch the first time we watched this. We being me, myself, and I. Yes, that was a problem, and then rewatch, it becomes a real problem towards the.
Oh, because you're like noticing it more.
Oh yeah. I mean, okay. So where are we at? We're in Moscow because that's where they fell into the pots, right? And then we have the the hallway scene, and then that's when we get the scene of them strapped up with the chains.
Yes.
And oh yeah, we have it. It's a primitive torture, but you know what they say. It only takes 3 to kill a man. And then The Rock's like, I think we can do 5. And they're strapped up and being electrocuted to death. And they do this whole scene, and it's kind of really macho-y dumb. And whatever. This in turn leads to the beginning. Okay, first off, actually. I don't think he's Russian, but the doctor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the doctor's, I don't know who he is. I feel like he's in Marvel movies.
He is in a Marvel movie. I think he's in a Marvel movie.
I'll look him up.
He's in Snatch. He's like a
Oh yeah, he is in Snatch.
He's a character actor. He's like kind of this character in anything he plays, and it's always kind of a delight for me. I love him.
Yeah, I like him. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I had a fun. Like he's the German, or no, I wouldn't say German. He's the European doctor that created this. You're shaking your head like you're about to say something, but he's the European.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
He's the European doctor that created this virus and the way to get it in and out of a human being, and you get a little bit of him. And go ahead, Micah.
Yeah, his name is Eddie Marsan. And I think what we would all know him the most from is he's in The World's End, Edgar Wright's movie. Yeah. He's one of the guys.
Yeah, that's why I didn't write him down.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, he's so good in that movie. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
Please.
Now you remind me, and I need to go back and watch the Cornetto trilogy. It's just a good.
Those movies are so good.
It's a good time. But we get a little bit of him, and we're inside the facility. We get them being macho men. We get the Mick Jagger, grift. Is probably
grift. Yeah,
best word for it. And that's when they escape. He dies in a very quick succession, which I thought was interesting. They just run. Idris Elba runs over and just twists his neck,
just like that.
Yeah.
Fine, because he's Black Superman and he has all these extracurricular powers that I still don't understand fully.
Yeah.
But that's when we start getting the Fast and the Furious part of it, where we got to get in vehicles, and we get into this we get into this semi, this like combat semi, and we also get into this. I don't know what you would call that, but it looks like a dune.
A dune buggy.
Dune buggy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, it's like an amped up, souped up dune buggy. And at first, totally fine with this whole scene.
Uh-huh.
And they're riding around and whatnot. You got drones chasing them, and then all of a sudden, the dune buggy's got to go up like a pipeline system. Mm-hmm. This is where the movie loses me. And
yes.
It's like in a factory where there's a pipeline going up at an angle, and we're being chased. We have nowhere to go. We're gonna go up this direction, and they just start going up this line that doesn't make any sense. And at that point, from then on out, it just gets wild. I mean,
yeah. I think I am like 100% with you on that. Like, that is the moment for me too. Like, this is definitely a bad movie.
Well, and that's it. They're jumping. Like, I can get over the jumping from building to building or whatever, but it's climbing up at an angle. It looks ridiculous, and then from then on out, they're jumping through buildings that, like, you can't. I don't know. You can't make sense of it. At least in skyscrapers, you go, okay, they're like semi-level. You could the suspension of disbelief is there. Where they jumped from one level and they dropped. They're going just fast enough, but they dropped just at the right angle to get into the other level.
Right.
This one, hard to do that.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have Idris Elba on a motorcycle doing all these fantastical jumps and through fire and flames. And I wish that song was in there. Wink, wink.
I think that a lot of this stuff would be easier to get past if it didn't look so bad.
Yeah.
Because the CGI, and when we compare it to movies that came out in the same year or even earlier, I'm not sure why the CGI is so egregious in this movie.
It's really bad.
Because something like like when they're in Samoa and there's that helicopter scene with all the tow trucks, I'm like, this is what I want out of Fast and Furious, and this is cool, but it looks so bad that I don't enjoy it. Whereas I know, like, when we talk about the skyscraper jumping, it's like, yeah, of course that's not possible, but this looks good.
Yeah.
And it helps that James Wan is awesome, and we just love him. But it just doesn't, the CGI, I don't know. And David Leitch he's an action director. Mm-hmm. He comes from the stunt world. So I just don't think
that's what makes it more confusing.
Right. I don't know why he's attracted to the CG as much as he is, granted with his filmography, but it's a little like, I just don't think it's a strong suit of his. Yeah.
Well, you had mentioned while watching it, like, he is definitely a combat choreographer. He's amazing at that. Yeah. But when it comes to vehicle stuff, maybe that's just not his thing.
Yeah, because I thought the chase sequences were, they just kind of existed. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel much tension or anything like that. I mean, it was kind of cool when they go under the semi, though, in London. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make any sense, but I'm like, yeah, I expect that out of these movies by this point. Like a guy sliding on his feet underneath the semi and then popping back up. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's they've gone through all of the remains of the Moscow nuclear plant.
Yeah, and they needed to get the machine that will take out the virus from Hattie. That's why they were there.
But now they only have one more option because they got to get off the grid. Mm-hmm. Dwayne's got to go home. Mm-hmm. He hears the echoes of his daughter saying she doesn't know who her family is, and there's only one leaf. And they go to Samoa. So we have a nice change of a location.
That doesn't make sense when someone's trying to get something out of them in 72 hours, but sure, let's go.
But they called Kevin Hart, and he said it was really hard to get a charter from Moscow to Samoa, but I got it for you guys. So they did cover their butts.
This is where the time just doesn't make.
Oh yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. You can look up flights from Moscow to Samoa.
Did you do that?
I did, and it looked like over a day. Granted,
over a day.
Well, this is commercial flights, so we got
right.
We have stops, but
yeah,
it was like a day and a half, 2 days almost. Now, audience, please don't hold me to that. I understand they're on.
Yeah, anyone who's traveled from Moscow to Samoa who says different, don't come at Shane.
Just give us a 5-star review on Apple and tell us about your flight.
Actually, give a 5-star review and tell me how wrong I am about this flight status. And I understand they're on at one point they it's a throwaway line, but they go like, oh yeah, they were on like a cargo plane or whatever from Moscow to Samoa. But you're like, yeah, but that's opposite sides of the earth. And she has less, like at certain points she goes, I have less than 24 hours to live. And then she goes, I just have a little bit over 24 hours to live. And you're like, all right. I'm like, clearly you're going to live through this. I'm not going to like nitpick it, but what are the hours? Because like that changes how we do everything. And from this point on in the movie, on second rewatch, you're just like, holy cow, what a waste of time. A lot like
why does it have to be 72 hours? Why can't it be like 5 days, a week? Why does it have to be that?
That's that funny thing that happens, and it happens in this is not exclusive to this series or anything. There's just movies where it's like if you literally just said 1 week, then like 10% of the problems of this movie are not there.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are going to be like, 1 week doesn't sound dramatic enough. It's like, I think 1 week's a short amount of time.
Well, I do think that that's part of that is part of it, though, that goes into that decision. So it's like, if that is really true, don't make them go to across the world 4 different times.
Yeah. Because even,
I know
not to mention,
they're supposed to.
She gets the virus, and then, like, they catch up to her sometime the next day. If we're assuming that they get on, like, right away. Mm-hmm. And then they go to Russia, like.
But the Rock had to go to London from LA.
Right.
That's not a short trip.
No. Which, by the way, the handler for Jason Statham was very funny.
Oh, that guy was hilarious.
That guy was very funny at the beginning of the movie.
Unlike Ryan Reynolds, apparently.
I forget who the handler was. I'm sorry, but please remind me.
Well, he just had a couple. He was on the phone with Ryan after they both talked to their guys, and he just said a few things where I was like, this guy's bringing it.
Yes,
I like this guy. Mm-hmm. So anyway, go ahead.
Back to the timing thing. Like, yeah, give him, I don't know, give him a few more days. Give him there needs to be an end, like, challenge, but at the same time, this whole movie was writing down to the minute, to the point where like, okay, clearly the minute is like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, so we've arrived at the island. Okay, Moscow to Samoa. Forget what I said just a few minutes ago. That's a long flight, and she's supposed to have like a day and some change left. Mm-hmm. That's eating up to at least, like, let's be generous.
Well, and then they have to set up the island to have traps and stuff, which I guess take like 2.5 minutes.
And then they have to fix the machine, and then when they inject her with it, it takes 30 minutes.
Yes.
Why
that's
does
what
it take
I'm getting
30 minutes?
There's a whole scene where, okay, we got to get to the island. Okay, that takes some time, and then I got to reconcile with my Usos, and that takes some time. Fine. All of this is fine so far. But then we have to set up the island. And when they set up the island, and that's when we get the kiss scene in this montage, they spend a whole day and a half doing all this. So is it a day and a half till she dies? Or is it like more like 3.5 days and like, we just got to get this done before Wednesday kind of thing, you know?
72 hours is playing it safe.
Is she asymptomatic? Is this? Yeah, no, that all of that is like, that is one of those things where it's like, and I'm saying this, you just can't think about it, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But it is just very funny because it's just, you know, that if they just change like 3 sentences in the movie, you wouldn't be thinking those questions.
Especially a movie that isn't a masterpiece and isn't wildly amazing.
No, Shane said it was a masterpiece at the beginning.
No, it's just like most
Audience,
people, I
please
think.
go back and quote me and send that to me at oharashane5@gmail.com and really ridicule me. Again, it's oharashane5@gmail.com. Please let me know that I said this was a masterpiece and that I regret saying everything else past that. All right,
Wow.
back to you, Micah.
I do think that people who are in theaters watching this, having hopefully a good time, but maybe are getting a little bored at this point in the movie, like how a huge percentage of them have to think, wait, how many days has it been?
Yeah.
It's just, if 3 people are talking about it, there's, millions of more talking about that.
Right. Well, and you know what? Okay, if I'm going to try and look on this movie on the bright side a little bit, try and be a little more fair, I guess, and a little nicer, I think that this would be I am not someone who likes to look at my phone while watching movies. It drives me nuts when people do. But I think that this movie is a perfect Instagram movie. And I'm saying like if you were like, I kind of want to watch a movie, but I don't really want to pay attention that much, I just want something on, this is a great movie to choose.
Yeah.
That sounds backhanded, and it kind of is, but we do need movies that you cannot pay attention to.
Sure.
So maybe you like draw during the movie or whatever. This is a good movie for that, and then you just look up and be like, whoa, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Potentially.
no,
Actually.
absolutely.
This is a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
I love this movie.
No. No. No, I completely agree with you, Micah. Like we need certain movies, not every movie, but we need certain movies. Like, I don't know, people like to have stuff on in the background.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fantastic movie for that.
Yeah.
It is.
Because you don't need to pay attention. Like, you understand there's a bad guy, a good guy, and clearly, like, what we've learned from when we were younger in every James Bond movie is, like, the bad guy is just trying to end the world. And
Right.
who cared? Like honestly, who cared? Oh, it's through the water supply, or oh, it's through the blood,
Right.
the blood supply. Who cares? Like, the movie's gonna end with him not succeeding, more than likely, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And you just throw The Rock and you throw Jason Statham in there, and they're quippy and
You got yourself a stew.
and you got yourself a stew. And are you throwing that bone away? Because that'd be a waste. That would be a real waste, I tell you.
Yeah, how are you going to enjoy a nice 70-degree sunny day if you don't have a couple of 45-degree rainy ones, you know?
Wow. Poetry.
Yeah. How are you going to enjoy the beautiful landscape of Samoa if you don't get rained on in London?
Brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah. But there's a epic final battle.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. What happened to the weapons?
Oh, they're gone. Replaced.
I will say I kind of liked that they have to use like traditional like Samoan weapons.
Yeah.
And then it is cool that they like hack the guns and the guns turn off.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Yeah.
And then it's nighttime, and in the course of 3 shots, it's like
It is
noon.
noonday.
Which is
Noonday.
very
Well,
funny.
there was one shot where it showed like the sun rising. It did.
It did,
But then
yeah.
the next shot was, it's noon, basically.
That was just a funny choice because it's like, oh, the day doesn't look as good as the night
And there
looked.
it's just that's so confusing. And I think those details just get forgotten. No one thinks about it at this
Yeah.
point. But like, the machine's almost done, and they keep saying like they're going to show up any minute. We got to get this done. Let's go. And they keep saying that, and then they finally inject her, and they're like, okay, it's time to go outside, and it's dark, and it's like cool. It's like middle of the night. They're
Yeah.
gonna fight, and then it's like, oh, I guess it was 5 a.m.
Right.
But how would I have known that? I'm just the moviegoer that's like dark night,
Yeah.
so it's just confusing.
Well, and I think it goes to like the Marvel problem that we've talked about so much, where like a lot of the battles just take place in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. There's other color palettes we could choose from that might be a little more interesting to look at than like washed out concrete blue sky. you know, and that's what this. It's like you're on Samoa, and then you have this night. It's night. It's kind of cool, and then it's like nah. But then they do make it rain later. Yeah, which is a change.
But aren't you glad they didn't do it at night? Because then it would have just been a blacked out kind. Like I understand we transition really quickly.
Yeah,
but they transitioned to light to the point where they're trying. I felt like they were trying to show off Samoa. And
yeah, well, yeah, that's fair.
Where it's like, okay, the transition was dumb, and I don't appreciate that because like it could have been at night and it could have been this cool scene, but at the same time I understand like also it could have been start it at the beginning of the sunrise. Don't start it in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Like we're coming into the color, not just like it was dark and then it's bright, you know.
No, that's what I think too. And I feel like no one's talked about it more than we have right now.
Well, and you know what? I will give them points because a lot of times movies don't even give you that. So at least they did give us a transition. They knew. Mm-hmm. But then there's semi craziness. And when they loaded up a tow truck to a tow truck, for real, I'm not just saying this to make up for it. When they did 2, I was like, oh, I hope they do another one. And then they got another one, and I was like, they got to do at least one more. So I think there's like 4, maybe 5 tow trucks that are lined up.
At least 4, and I wrote the note, keep adding trucks, baby.
yeah. And I liked that. And then when they used the NOS to like disable the helicopter.
NOS. I loved it.
Whoa.
Cool.
Don't you mean the moonshine?
Is that what they called it?
Yeah, they like add the moonshine, and that's when the flicking of the like. All right, this is the NOS of this movie.
Okay, so that's the Samoan version of NOS. Because as we learned in the last movie, Cuba has their own NOS too.
Oh yeah.
Which makes me, and they say this is Cuban NOS.
Yeah. Yes.
And so made me think every country must have their own form of that. So now we know Samoa's.
We just need that space NOS. Yeah. We want space NOS next.
You don't want to know more countries first? You're just
No, I'm ready for space NOS.
Great.
And so the tow truck thing is I mean, I already expressed some of my disinterest with it, but I think as a whole, I do like the concept of it, and that's very Fast and Furious.
Yeah, it is.
And I like that they did it.
Yeah.
But then they tumble down this waterfall. Mm-hmm. They have a fist fight in the rain.
That lasted forever.
Well, it was a long fight.
It's a long fight where they learn that what's the key lesson here? Teamwork. It's just teamwork.
Yep. Family.
Yep. So they finally learn to quit comparing their peenies and start fighting together.
Yep.
And so they do that and they succeed.
They they best him, but they don't kill him.
Right. The secret machine kills them.
The secret machine kills him.
Aetion.
Yeah.
And
so do we learn who that is in F9 or no? Can you just spoil if we learn who that is?
You don't.
Dang it.
From my view of things, you don't. I was disappointed at the end of this movie. I'm disappointed because like, oh great, just like you can turn him off. Cool. And he's dead.
Yeah.
And he's dead, quote unquote. Is he? Because can they just turn him back on? Can they?
Oh, that's an interesting point.
That's my only thought. He's not in F9. I'm not like alluding to that, but
yeah.
Can you just bring him back online? And then at one point in the movie, Hobbs is like, "Oh yeah, my dad. He was a bad guy. He left her family for a bit, and then he came back and he found out he can use me and my brothers to the point where he lets one of my brothers die." And then I had to arrest him, and that's why, and then he's like, that's why I left for 25 years. And then they come back to the end of the movie, and the screen pops on and goes like, Hobbs, we're gonna have a fantastic reunion. It's not exactly those words, but Aetion kills Idris
Yeah.
Elba and then says something along those lines. And you're like, well, is that his dad? Is it his brother? Or is this some character
Oh.
we don't know yet?
I did not
I have to
catch
honestly admit that I didn't catch a single thing about his dad in this movie.
Well, I caught what you said. I just didn't
I did
go
not
further
compute. I did not compute. Like Idris Elba, my brain was turned off.
I watched this
enough.
every single night this week. So I caught everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I don't know where this movie's going. I hope there's a sequel because only because there is an unknown and a cliffhanger. But yeah, I don't know.
Isn't that the worst when you read a book or you watch a movie and it didn't do well, but therefore they probably won't make more, but it ended with that kind of thing? There's this book I read when I was a kid and there was a giant cliffhanger and I don't think they ever made another book.
What's the book?
And I can't even remember what the book's called, but it was some young adult fantasy book where someone was dead who was apparently dead. And I never found out why. And that's why I am the person I am today.
That was the linchpin moment
Yeah.
where that was your Fast Five moment where you defined who you were.
Yes. But this movie too, it's like I didn't really like this movie, but I do want to know who that is.
Right.
Yeah, they come on at the end and it's like, I don't, like, if you ask me, honestly, I don't care. I just don't care. Upon rewatch, I'm like, it might be his dad, it might be this, and I think I really, really do care because I feel like I'm part of the family now, and I need to get the closure that is this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Dang.
I think I said my piece on Hobbs and Shaw.
I think you did. There are how many post-credit scenes? 4 or 3?
At least.
Well, I think there's one as the credits are rolling, then there's a mid-credit scene, then there's a post-credit scene.
Okay.
I would agree.
There
Yeah.
were a lot.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, so at the first post-credit was with Ryan, right?
No.
I think so.
And no.
Well, sorry,
okay.
I'm sorry. I take it back. Yes and no. I think there might be 4 post-credits. So the first one is with Ryan. And go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, so that first post-credit, it's like, whatever, fine. I mean, he's kind of grating on me now, but fine. And then later on, when we go back to him, my initial reaction was like, dude, we're doing another one? But as the one went, I was like, okay, the brick stabbing thing was... I liked the
real
payoff
funny,
to
right?
that joke. Yeah, it was good.
'Cause I think the-
Micah is so mad.
I think the other 2 are just you get the combo one, which is the daughter meeting the rest of the Samoan family.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
But
yeah.
you also it's the same split half like the beginning of the movie where you get
Helen Mirren.
Yeah, Jason Statham
yeah.
and Hattie. Hattie, Haiti, like the country.
The country.
What's the joke there? There's no joke. I'm screwing up on the name. You get Hattie and Jason Statham going to Helen Mirren like, here's your cake, and they go, don't eat it, and like clearly it's a bomb.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then we come back to the next. There's a lot of cutscenes, and then it comes back to The Rock putting chains on his neck. And he's having a good
Gosh.
time, and he calls up.
Oh, right.
He calls up Jason
He
Statham.
does the huge anus.
Yeah, and he goes, I just wanted to be on the phone for this. And this is the police. Is Hugh Janus in
yeah.
there? And you get that scene, and then it cuts to finally Ryan Reynolds.
But it's like the original scene, which I thought it wasn't like, here's a new scene that has Ryan Reynolds. It's like he's continuing his phone call with these 3 post-credit scenes shoved in between.
That does feel like a Deadpool thing, where Deadpool's
Yeah.
like, I'm still here. You can't escape me.
Right.
Because how many post credits does he have in those movies? Just one or like more?
Oh,
than
I
one?
don't. I do not remember.
Okay.
But you get the whole like, oh, I'm bleeding out. Like, wait a minute, it's not my blood. I like stabbed a guy with a brick. It's actually
Yeah.
a lot easier than you would think.
I like too that we were talking way too much about Ryan Reynolds again, but I do like that he comes and he's introduced that him and The Rock have some kind of history, and Ryan like loves The Rock and The Rock does not care. And then we get these post-credit scenes and it's like, oh, so he is some CIA like really skilled person and we didn't see him do a single thing. I love it.
It's perfect.
So dumb.
It's perfect. It's so good. I'm excited for Lock and Loaded. It's gonna happen. And I'm looking at Micah just sinking behind the microphone, like, oh my god, I can't believe
I feel like this is a Macaw Podcast Universe first, where I'm not the one that's really mad that we're still talking about this movie.
I think this is a first, yeah.
That's crazy.
And I want to reiterate, I have been a fan of Ryan, and I truly think at some point he will win me back over. Mm-hmm. He's just in a phase right now that I can't stand, and I just need something else.
That's okay.
Sure.
So
okay. You're wrong,
Betty.
but it's okay.
Maybe I am. But I can't help how I feel. But you are welcome on the show, Ryan. You can Deadpool me. You can just say how much bad I am.
Rob McElhenney.
That's true. We do want.
That is a requirement.
Yeah, we would love that. Okay, have we said our piece on Hobbs and Shaw?
I think we have. I have. I love this movie,
Same.
but it's wild.
I have two. I've said my piece, and you have.
Yeah.
Well, why don't do you have anything to plug, Shane?
Yeah. Go visit your local library because that's where I picked this movie up from, and I would not.
That's where we got it from too.
I would not rent this movie again. At $2.99 or $3.99 on YouTube, that is some baloney. But my local library had it, and they have most of the stuff you're looking for. And I highly suggest you visit them because you're missing out, folks.
Seriously.
And that's what I've got to plug. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for being on, Shane.
Yes, thank you so much.
It's a fun time. I hope you had fun despite me.
Oh, I always have a good time. Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it.
And for everyone that's listening, next week we finish F9, and then we move on to a new series, and it was the fan bracket that we ran, and the winner was Star Wars. So we will finally be jumping into Star Wars, and I'll explain this a few times, but what we're going to do is we will be doing the George Lucas movies back to back to back to back, episode 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3.
What? We're watching it backwards?
And then we will take a quick trilogy break, and then we will do the other 5 theatrical movies.
Great.
And then in addition to that, I'll just say that this month on Patreon, we finished Speed, and we did Speed 2 Cruise Control. And this next month, it'll be 2 days before our first episode on Star Wars comes out, and we're covering the movie directed by Akira Kurosawa called The Hidden Fortress, which is one of George Lucas's main influences on Star Wars. And I think it's from the 30s or 40s. It could be the 50s. I think it's the 40s, though. So we're going to cover that on May the 4th on Patreon. Cool. And then that Friday, we begin Star Wars. All theatrical, all in the order of the release.
Cool.
So that's the Star Wars breakdown. Sign up for Patreon. Oh, it's going to be so fun. I am so amped to watch Star Wars. I don't think I've seen any Star Wars movies since Rise of Skywalker came out, and I'm ready to rewatch. Ready to eat it up.
Great.
It's gonna be
Good for you.
That's going to be a blast. You're going to cover the the original inspiration. It's going to be a grand old time. I'm excited.
Yeah. And patrons, keep your ears full because we have 3, including the Hidden Fortress episode. We have 3 specific to Star Wars episodes that will only be on Patreon that are going to be fun. Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
It's like the only thing they